Sunday the 4th November saw Leeds United beat Wigan Athletic 2-1 at the DW Stadium to end Wigan's unbeaten home record this season and to send Leeds top of the Championship. Usually this would just be a normal match. However, it wasn't just an ordinary match for Wigan, as it was the last home match that the Whelan family would be the owners of Wigan Athletic, as Hong Kong-based company International Entertainment Corporation, or IEC, completed a £22 million takeover of the club on Wednesday the 7th of November. Since Dave Whelan took over in 1995, Wigan have gone from the 4th tier of English football all the way to the Premier League, where they spent 8 years there, culminating in relegation, but also an FA Cup win in 2013. Wigan have also taken some major cup scalps along the way, along with many promotions and a European tour. In this 3-part series, I will take you on the journey all the way from 1995 to 2018. In this first part, we will go over the first 10 years of the Whelan reign from 1995 to 2005, when Wigan went from the 4th tier to promotion to the Premier League. In part 2, we will focus on Wigan's 8 years in the Premier League, which included some relegation battles and 2 cup finals. In the final part, we focus on the years after relegation in 2013, from the European tour to the 2 promotions and relegations to a certain song about a man on fire. I will leave links to part 2 and part 3 in the description when they are uploaded, and make a playlist so you can check them out, and make sure to subscribe with notifications on by clicking the bell so you don't miss the next parts in the series. With that being said, here's the story of the 23 years of the Whelan family at Wigan Athletic. Before becoming a businessman, Dave Whelan, born on the 24th November 1936, was a footballer himself. He made 193 league appearances from 1956 to 1966 for Blackburn Rovers and Crewe Alexandria, scoring 3 goals as a fullback. He famously played in the 1960 FA Cup final for Blackburn against Wolves, a game which Blackburn lost. In a tackle with Norman Dealey, he broke his leg and was stretchered off, never to play for Blackburn again. This was the 7th serious injury at Wembley in 9 finals, known as the Wembley Hoodoo. It would be over 50 years before Dave could get another chance at an FA Cup final. After retiring from football, Dave went into business. He started his own market stall in Wigan Market, which then progressed into a grocery store and eventually into a supermarket chain called Whelan Discount Stores, which had 10 stores across Lancashire in the late 1960s. This brought the attention of Ken Morrison, the owner of supermarket chain Morrison's, who wanted some stores in Lancashire. Dave wanted 2 million, but Ken would only offer 1 million. Eventually, they settled for 1.5 million in 1978. Around the same time, Dave bought Wigan's sports store, JJ Bradburn's, which had been established by JJ Broughton and had been known locally as JJB's. Dave kept the abbreviation and named the store JJB Sports. It ended up becoming one of the biggest sports retailers in the country, with over 400 stores throughout the UK and Ireland in 2005. He even nearly bought Manchester United for £11.5 million in the 1980s off former owner Martin Edwards, but walked away from the deal. However, it was to be Wigan that he would take over, after being persuaded by then President Stan Jackson in February 1995, which cost Dave £400,000. They were near the bottom of the 3rd division, now known as League 2, at the time, compared to the Wigan Warriors, the rugby league team in Wigan, who won the most successful period in their history, winning 8 Challenge Cups in a row and 7 League Championships in a row. Whelan did own the Wigan Warriors as well though, from 1999 to 2007. Soon after buying Wigan Athletic, Whelan announced in a press conference that in 10 years' time, Wigan would have a new stadium and would be in the Premier League, which nobody believed at the time, thinking he was mad. Little did they know what was to come. They finished the 1994-1995 season in 14th place out of 22, an improvement on where they had been before Whelan had joined. Over the summer, a trio of signings were made, which will go down in Wigan's history. With Whelan's connections in Spain, he managed to convince a trio of young Spanish players to come and play for Wigan in the 4th tier of English football, something that was unheard of in 1995, let alone 2018. These 3 players were Isidro Diaz, who had played for Real Zaragoza's reserves and was at Balaguer, Jesus Saber, who had been capped at Spanish under-21 international level and was on loan at Villarreal, and most famous of all, Roberto Martinez. They were nicknamed the Three Amigos after the 1986 comedy film of the same name. Wigan fans would often be seen wearing sombreros and holding Spanish flags in the stands, and there was a famous banner which said, "Jesus is a Wiganer." They became the first Spanish players to play in the FA Cup when they played away at Runcorn in November 1995 in a 1-1 draw. That game was also the second game for manager John Deenan, who had been brought in due to Graham Barrow being sacked after Wigan had lost 6-2 to Mansfield Town. With 4 games to go, Wigan were sat in the automatic promotion spots, but they failed to win any of their last 4 games and finished 10th, 2 points and 3 places away from the playoffs. Roberto Martinez managed to make it into the team of the season though. The 96-97 season saw striker Graham Jones sign on a free from Doncaster, and he would score 31 goals in his first season to be the leading scorer in the division, as Wigan finished top of the league and were promoted to the 3rd tier. They were guaranteed promotion on the 8th of April as they beat Colchester United 1-0, and going into the final game of the season, Wigan and Fulham were level on points at the top. Wigan won 2-0 at home to Mansfield and Fulham won 1-0 away at Cambridge, so both sides finished on 87 points. In most seasons, Wigan would have been runners-up behind Fulham as they had a goal difference worse by 1, but a temporary rule change saw goals scored take precedence over goal difference, which saw them finish above Fulham, who had scored 72 goals compared to Wigan's 84. The change had ironically been proposed by Fulham's chairman at the time, Jimmy Hill. Martinez once again made the team of the season, along with Graham Jones. By the start of the 97-98 season, 2 of the Three Amigos in Saber and Diaz had left the club, with Saber leaving in October 1996. Diaz did come back in late 1997, but he only played 3 games before leaving again at the end of the season. Goalkeeper Roy Carroll was brought in April 1997, however he only made his debut in November 1997. Wigan were one of the favourites to be relegated, and they didn't start the campaign well. By the end of November, Wigan were 21st out of 24 and sat in the relegation zone, and in late February they were only 2 points above the relegation zone in 18th place. Wigan only lost 3 of the last 15 games though, gaining 26 points as they finished in 11th place, 8 points off the playoffs. It was to be the end of John Deenan as manager though, as he joined Steve Bruce as assistant manager at Sheffield United. Ray Matthias came in as manager for a second spell at the club after managing Wigan from 1986 to 1989, which included reaching the quarter-finals of the FA Cup in 1987. The 1998-99 season saw striker Andy Liddell sign for Wigan from Barnsley for £350,000, having played a part in the Premier League season the season earlier. Wigan finished the season in 6th place and reached the playoffs on the last day of the season as they beat Chesterfield 3-1 and Bournemouth could only draw 0-0 with Wrexham. They would face Man City in the semi-finals, who had been relegated the previous season. However, it would be Man City who would progress. The first leg was a 1-1 draw at Springfield Park, the last game to be played at the ground before Wigan moved to their new stadium. However, Sean Gota scored the only goal of the game in controversial circumstances for Man City to win 1-0 and 2-1 on aggregate, and City would go on to be promoted on penalties against Gillingham. Matthias was sacked at the end of the season, with John Benson taking over for the 99-2000 season, having previously been John Deenan's assistant at Wigan. However, it wasn't all doom and gloom for Wigan though, as early in the season they had contested the Auto Windscreen Shield final, aka the Football League Trophy final, at Wembley against Millwall. They had beaten Rotherham, Scarborough, Carlisle, Rochdale and Wrexham over 2 legs to get to the final. A tense affair saw chances missed by both sides, and with the game looking set for extra time, Paul Rodgers scored in the 93rd minute for Wigan, which was one of just 5 goals he scored over 3 years for Wigan, giving them the win and their second Football League Trophy win in their history. August 1999 saw Wigan Athletic move into their new all-seater stadium called the JJB Stadium, which had a capacity of over 25,000. The stadium cost around £30 million to make and would be one of the biggest grounds outside of the Premier League, once again showing Dave Whelan's desire to see Wigan in the Premier League. The official opening match was against the 1999 treble-winning Manchester United. Paul Scholes and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer scored to give Man United a 2-0 win. However, Wigan did play a friendly a few days earlier at the stadium against Morecambe in a 0-0 draw in terrible weather conditions. The season saw defender Arjan Dzeu sign from Barnsley, but Paul Rodgers, scorer of the winning goal in the Auto Windscreen Shield final the year before, moved to Brighton. Wigan started the season very well indeed, going undefeated for the first 24 games of the season, before losing at home to Oldham on the 7th of January 2000. Having scored 51 points in their first 23 games, Wigan would go on to score just 32 points in their final 23 games, as they finished in 4th place, meaning a second year in the playoffs in a row. A 1-0 win in the home leg against Millwall saw them go through to the final to face Gillingham in the last ever Division 2 playoff at the Old Wembley, after Gillingham had lost in the final last year. A few days before the final, Wigan manager John Benson announced he would be leaving at the end of the season. Gillingham took the lead in the 35th minute. But an amazing goal from Simon Hayworth levelled the scores for Wigan in the 59th minute. After dominating the game, it finished 1-1 after 90 minutes though, with Wigan's Kevin Sharp sent off near the end of the game. Wigan took the lead through a Stuart Barlow penalty in the 99th minute, but with 6 minutes to go, Gillingham equalised, and 4 minutes later, they scored again and it finished 3-2 to Gillingham. Heartbreak for Wigan. Roy Carroll made the team of the season, but that wasn't much consolation. The 2000-2001 season saw Wigan try and achieve promotion again after missing out via the playoffs for 2 seasons in a row. However, they would soon make that 3 seasons in a row in a season which saw 3 different managers in charge. The biggest transfers made was the arrival of Scottish pair Steve McMillan and Lee McCulloch from Motherwell for a combined total of £1.25 million in March 2001. Former Arsenal manager Bruce Rioch was the first to take charge that season and had Wigan challenging for the playoffs. However, he left in February, with Wigan claiming Rioch had resigned and Rioch claiming Wigan had sacked him. 1997 Wigan captain Colin Greenall then became caretaker manager for 6 games, winning once, drawing 4 times and losing once. However, he didn't get the permanent job. That surprisingly went to Steve Bruce, who came in with 6 games to go in the league, and Wigan in 5th, but having played more games than others. They would ultimately finish 6th, 2 points ahead of 7th place Bournemouth, and would face 3rd place Reading in the playoff semi-finals. Despite drawing the first leg 0-0 at home, they lost the second leg 2-1, despite leading up until the 86th minute. Roy Carroll saved a penalty in extra time with the scores level, but Nicky Forster scored the rebound to send Reading through and knock Wigan out. Arjan Dzeu made the team of the season, but once again, this was little consolation. Steve Bruce left soon afterwards to become the Crystal Palace manager, meaning Dave Whelan had to find his 8th manager, including caretaker managers, since 1995, and his 6th since 1998. The man he chose was the highly regarded young manager Paul Jewell. Jewell had previously played 137 games for Wigan from 1984 to 1988 and had recently got Bradford promoted to the Premier League in 1999 and avoided a relegation in their first season in 2000. Jewell made a host of signings that season, many of which turned into Wigan legends, including Jason DeVos for £500,000, Mark Jackson on a free, John Filan for £600,000, Gary Teal for £200,000, and Nathan Ellington on transfer deadline day in March 2002 for a club record fee of £1.2 million. However, Roberto Martinez and Roy Carroll both left the club, with Carroll being bought by the current Premier League champions Manchester United for £2.5 million, the most money Wigan had received for a player in their history. The 2001-2002 season was Wigan's lowest finish since 1998, as they finished 10th. They also lost 1-0 at home to 6th-tier Canvey Island in the first round of the FA Cup. However, unlike with previous managers, Whelan saw the rebuilding job that Jewell was doing and kept him as manager for the 2002-2003 season, when the hard work paid off. Oyan Dezeu made his second team of the season appearance in a row, but he left Wigan at the end of the season to join Portsmouth. A couple more signings were made, including right-back Nicky Eden, Ian Brecken, and veteran keeper Dave Besant on a short-term deal, although Besant never played in a league match. The biggest signing of the season, however, was made in January 2003, when central midfielder Jimmy Bullard was signed from Peterborough for £275,000, and he would go on to be an integral part of Wigan for the next few seasons. This season also saw left-back Leighton Baines make his debut for the club. Wigan lost 2 of their first 6 games in the league, but then went unbeaten for the next 21 games, winning 16 and drawing 5 to sit 11 points clear at the top of Division 2. Along with this came a great run in the League Cup, which included beating 3 Premier League teams at home in a row in the form of West Brom, Man City and Fulham to reach the quarter-finals, before losing 2-0 at home to another Premier League side in Blackburn. After losing to Swindon on the 25th of January, they lost just 1 game after that, finishing the season on an incredible 100 points and conceding just 25 goals in 46 games, keeping 25 clean sheets. This saw Wigan win the league by 14 points, vindicating Whelan's spending and bringing him one step closer to the dream which he had set out to achieve in 1995. Andy Liddell finished the season on 16 goals in the league, with Nathan Ellington scoring 22 goals in all competitions. 4 players made the team of the season: goalkeeper John Phelan, defenders Nicky Eden and Jason DeVos, and midfielder Jimmy Bullard. The 2003-2004 season was Wigan's first ever season in the second tier of English football, with pundits and betting companies predicting Wigan to be one of the favourites to be relegated, or to finish in the bottom half at least. Only 2 signings were made over the summer and at the start of the season: goalkeeper Gary Walsh on a free, and Jeff Horsfield for £500 from Birmingham. Horsfield would move to West Brom in January, however, for £1 million. Wigan lost their first game 2-0 away at Millwall, but then went unbeaten in their next 14 games, including a run of 6 wins in a row to sit top of the league in late October. They then lost away to mid-table Walsall, but followed that up with a 5-0 home win to Crystal Palace, in a game which Andy Liddell broke Wigan's all-time goal-scoring record with his 67th goal, surpassing David Lowe. He would go on to score 70 goals in his Wigan career before leaving at the end of the season. The Oasis song Little by Little was commonly played on the radio in Wigan and sung in the stands due to Liddell's success with Wigan at the time. They would earn only 10 points in their next 10 games, however, to see them sit just outside of the playoffs on goal difference. Another signing was then made, as Jason Roberts came in from West Brom for £1.4 million in January. Alan Marn was also signed in February on a free. Roberts made his debut in a derby match away at Preston, and he scored in the first 35 seconds of the game as Wigan won 4-2. This started a partnership with Nathan Ellington up front, who scored 16 goals between them in the next 18 games, including the Preston match. Going into the last game of the season, however, Wigan sat in 7th, 2 points behind Ipswich and 3 points behind Crystal Palace, but with a better goal difference than both teams. If Wigan beat West Ham and Crystal Palace lost, or Ipswich drew or lost, Wigan would be in the playoffs. Wigan went ahead through the other Roberts, Neil Roberts, and with Ipswich drawing and Crystal Palace losing, Wigan were in the playoffs. However, in the last moments of the game, Brian Deane nodded the ball into the goal from a Michael Carrick free kick. Whatever happened to him? To give West Ham a 1-1 draw, meaning Wigan would finish 7th and agonisingly miss out on the playoffs in their first season in Division 1. Crystal Palace would end up winning the playoffs, as thanks to Wigan conceding in the last minute, Palace finished 6th. The end of the season saw Jason DeVos leave to join Ipswich and Andy Liddell join Sheffield United. It was also the last season of the league being named Division 1, as it was rebranded to the Championship for the 2004-2005 season. Emerson Tom was the only real signing that Wigan made before the start of the season, but nothing much needed to change. This was shown as Wigan were unbeaten in their first 17 games of the season, which included wins against West Ham and Sunderland, who were both promotion challengers come the end of the season. This saw Wigan top the Championship, 6 points clear of Ipswich. However, they lost their next 2 games against Plymouth and QPR, and lost 5 of the next 9, including those 2 games, which also included losing 3 in a row at the end of December 2004. They managed to beat Preston 5-0 during this run, however, a game which is still talked about by the Wigan fans today. Wigan sat third at the end of 2004 after 26 games, 2 points behind Sunderland and 5 behind Ipswich. Over the next 3 months, they lost just 2 games out of 13 and beat promotion rivals Ipswich to sit in second place with 7 games to go, just 3 points ahead of Ipswich and 2 points behind Sunderland. Graham Kavanagh also signed at the start of March from Cardiff. At the start of April, however, they lost their next 2 matches against Sunderland and West Ham, seeing them fall to third place, 8 points behind Sunderland and 3 points behind Ipswich. Wigan managed to win their next 2 matches away at Cardiff and Leicester, while Ipswich only gained 1 point against Sunderland, meaning Sunderland sat first with 85 points, Wigan were second with 82 points, and Ipswich were third with 80 points. Wigan then drew their next 2 games, Ipswich won 1 and drew 1, while Sunderland won their next 2 games, confirming Sunderland as champions and leaving Wigan and Ipswich level on points, with Wigan's goal difference better by 13. This meant unless Ipswich destroyed Brighton, a Wigan win at home to Reading would see them finish second and complete Dave Whelan's dream of seeing Wigan in the Premier League in 10 years. Reading needed to win as well though to claim a spot in the playoffs ahead of West Ham. Ipswich scored in the 4th minute to go ahead of Wigan in second place, but 6 minutes later Brighton equalised and it would finish 1-1, meaning even a draw would be enough for Wigan. Lee McCulloch scored the opening goal for Wigan in the 18th minute. And 3 minutes later, Jason Roberts scored his 21st of the season to make it 2-0. The game was sealed in the 85th minute with a header from who else but Nathan Ellington, his 24th goal of the season, which was a fitting way to end the season. Reading scored in the 90th minute, but it didn't matter. Wigan had won 3-1 and they had done the unthinkable. They would be playing at Old Trafford, Highbury, Anfield and Stamford Bridge next season, but not in cup games. They would be there as a Premier League team. West Ham went up through the playoffs, beating Preston 1-0 in the final. The strike pair of Roberts and Ellington ripped up the Championship, with 45 goals between them in the league, along with 14 from Lee McCulloch. David Sharp, grandson of Dave Whelan and chairman of Wigan from 2015 to 2018, recently said that the pair would be worth £30 million between them if they were playing in 2018. Jimmy Bullard dominated the midfield along with Gary Teal, and Leighton Baines helped to make a name for himself alongside Matt Jackson, Ian Brecken, Nicky Eden and Australian John Phelan in goal. Ellington, Roberts and Bullard all made it into the Championship Team of the Season as well. All these men have gone down in Wigan history. It was all thanks to Dave Whelan though. It was his money, his vision, his belief which saw Wigan do the unthinkable. When he made that bold statement in February 1995, not many would believe it would come true, but come true it did. Little did he or anyone else know that Wigan's promotion to the Premier League was just the start of the story. In the next part, we will go over the 8 seasons that Wigan spent in the Premier League from 2005 to 2013, from the first match against champions Chelsea to the last match against Aston Villa, and all the highlights in between, from record signings to last day relegation battles to amazing comebacks to a League Cup final, all the way to a certain FA Cup final in 2013. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this, including part 2 next week of my series on the history of the Whelan family. If you like Formula 1, check out my previous videos where I talked about the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix, as well as when I compared the stats of Lewis Hamilton to Michael Schumacher and Juan Manuel Fangio. Leave in the comments below what your memories are of Wigan from 1995 to 2005, whether you are a Wigan Athletic fan or not, and whether I missed out any information about players or matches that I should mention at the start of part 2. Also, let me know what you want to see me talk about in the next video. See you next time.